In the book, you actually give us a model for how we can see a really good and vivid biblical example of shifting from culture wars to actually how we can engage the culture. And you use two passages for the model. You use Acts 17 and Romans 1. What do these two passages tell us in terms of engaging the culture?
Well, Romans 1 tells us where the culture is, and it's not very good. I joke in the chapter that you read Romans 1, and there's a very technical theological term for the status of the world that Paul lives in. It's the word yuck. And then I joke that we need to develop a yuckology, a study of the yuck. And it's very direct. It's very clear. You read the chapter and you say, Paul's watching our 10 o'clock news. The world that he lives in and he's describing is very much the world that we live in and that we hear described every day. But when you go to Acts 17, where he actually speaks to people out of this culture, he's building bridges while challenging them at the same time. So he opens having looked at a series of idols. The Acts text tells us he's very provoked by watching and looking at those idols. He doesn't like idolatry. He knows idolatry is a mess. The attitude that he has in Acts 17 is exactly the attitude that you see described in Romans 1. And yet his opening line is, I see that you are very religious. And you go, whoa, where'd that come from? Yeah. In fact, I joke, what are you smoking, Paul? But the point that he's trying to make is, I see you're interested in spiritual things. That's his bridge. And then his next point, let's talk about spiritual things. And then he moves into a place of engagement with them and challenge. And he's juxtaposing the challenge of what you believe and what your idolatry is doing isn't going to take you anywhere. It isn't useful. It isn't profitable, with an invitation about, here's the way to connect to the spiritual things that will take you somewhere healthy. And so he juxtaposes invitation and connection with challenge, and in the process presents the gospel, or moves to present the gospel. And I think that's the way I think it's a model for engagement. He builds a bridge first. He signals a level of respect. I'm glad you're talking and thinking about spiritual things. That's great. Let's talk about spiritual things in a little more detail. And then he goes there.
Yeah, so he does two things that you've already mentioned in these opening minutes, is that he starts where they are. He starts where they are, and then he finds commonality. There are two
Exactly
really great
right.
ways to start conversations in a way that's not defensive on either side.
Yeah, and the observation that you made is a very good one, and that is he starts where they are. He builds from where they think about the world, and then he tries to build a bridge to Christianity, whereas oftentimes in our engagement, we are almost insistent that a person come to where we are and then understand. And there's no bridge building in that process that brings a person along from where they are to where we're trying to take them. And so I call it, we try and make Superman out of them. We try and get them to leap tall theological buildings in a single bound.